Hi there, welcome on tuxocher.com. Welcome on my video channel, and in today's video we want to talk about why I actually replaced my almost 9-year-old 5D Mark II with a more recent model, and I got myself the 6D Mark II. I wanted to have a full frame camera, but comparing the technical data, I didn't find it is worth to spend another 1,500 euros on a 5D Mark IV, and so I got this beautiful camera, the 6D Mark II, and we want to talk about the issues, or maybe issues, compared to the 5D Mark II, and criticism about this camera. First of all, if you take a look on the camera or at the features, there is a lock on the mode knob, so it can be changed by accident, because you have to push the knob first to change the mode from AV or TV or manual mode. The most obvious feature on this camera is the swiveling display, which can substitute an angel finder if you take, like me as a macro photographer, a lot of images from a low point of view. And of course, since you can tilt it to the front of the camera, you also can use the camera as a follow camera, but we talk on the video capabilities a little bit later. Another feature what I appreciate very much on this camera, the camera has a GPS module built in. So if you activate GPS, so every picture will be stored with the GPS data on it, and if you import them into Lightroom will perform a reverse geo-encode, so you have all data like country, town, where you took the pictures right away in the images. The GPS module also can record a complete track file. I prefer mode 2 because this will store a new waypoint at set at intervals like 15 seconds or 30 seconds, and it will stop GPS recording while the camera is shut off. Another thing which is pretty important to me is that the camera can be controlled completely via Wi-Fi. There is a Canon own app for both Android and iOS devices. The Canon app, I don't like that very much because it's a little bit optimized for smartphones held in portrait mode, and some of the controls are not placed very well. So I still prefer the app DSLR controller, which is optimized for landscape holding the device, which is mainly both for smartphone but especially for tablets. And since we talk about the DSLR controller, I mainly use this app for either doing stacking, but I also use it a lot of time for time-lapse photography, and that is one feature that the Canon 6D Mark II has now built in. You got a built-in interval timer where you can set any intervals and any amount of picture you like to take for this time lapse. So maybe the use of DSLR controller app will decrease in the future, and even with HDR images, compared to the 5D Mark II, which only could took a series of exposure sequences with 3 images only, the 6D Mark II now can take up to 7 images in a row with different exposure. Most of the time 3 exposure for HDR is good, 5 is sometimes really good, but I didn't occur a situation where you needed 7 images to do a HDR. And since we are talking about timers, long time exposures, the 5D Mark II has a longest exposure time of 30 seconds. And if you wanted to do longer times, I used remote control for bulb mode. Now you have, if you switch the camera to bulb mode, you have a special long time timer where you can set all exposure times, even a minute or two if you like, if you take an image with a strong ND filter or anything, or if you're thinking about astrophotography where you have images a lot of times over 30 seconds exposures and so on. That is all built into the 6D Mark II. Compared to the 5D Mark II, the sensor has a resolution of 26.1 megapixels. That is roughly 5 megapixels more than the 5D Mark II. It gives a little bit more cropping reserve, but it's not that much. But you have to cope with a little bit higher resolution on your desktop PC. And talking about the sensor, I knew that the dynamic range of the sensor is almost the same like on my 5D Mark II. I placed a couple of pictures comparing this between the 6D Mark II and the 5D Mark II on my blog post, so it's literally the same effect if you brighten up shadows more than 2 exposure values. Even if you shot at ISO 100, these shadows will get a little bit noisy, but I knew this and I think I can cope with this since most of the time I do landscape, architecture and macro photography. And only one thing about video capabilities. It is a pretty modern camera, but Canon will limit you to 1080p. Full HD format is enough for your video taking. This might be also a good video camera, but for videos I don't use the Canon camera. I might use either a smartphone or my Lumix G81, which has 4K capability. Okay, that was my little view on the Canon 6D Mark II. It has some issues. If you want to have the newest, the mostly sophisticated technical data, I should have got a 5D Mark IV. But compared the price, I think I got a good deal by buying a 6D Mark II. Okay, if you have any questions, just place them into the comments or read the blog post on this. And I would surely appreciate a like for this video, and even more if you subscribe my channel. And that's all for today. And I say till the next time, ciao, Tuxache.